based on what you think the severity of the sign stealing is and what it means to you. But that's debatable because sign stealing has been going on, and everybody who's playing football knows that. So it really depends on what you think about it. And Joe Cladd has spoke on it. Like the more people have played, the less they think it is a big something. But the less someone has played, the more they think it's a big something. Unless you're just a rival and then you just want the
Sure.
smoke.
Yeah, you got to throw that out. You got to throw out rival opinions unless they're being very reasonable and logical about it, because the Michigan fan is, and this is logical. I'm not picking on the Michigan fan. I'm saying this about any fan base, any person that roots for a football team. You're going to tend to lean and defend your program, your team, your cause. But the rivals are going to do the exact opposite. Even the most logical are going to tend to want to think the worst and stretch the facts to their side. That's only human nature.
Right.
So in terms of, I got to admit this, and I've admitted this many times since this started, this is the crux of the situation that I wrestle with and that I struggle with. And I just told somebody that many of you would know this today. I when it comes right down to it, do I think that Michigan won a national championship or won 3 Big Ten championships because Connor Stallions cheated and stole signs and got video from other games? Do I think that that propelled them to those championships? No, I do not. That's not my opinion or my judgment of the situation. However, when someone cheats, the only reason you cheat is to gain an advantage to secure a victory. Otherwise, you wouldn't cheat.
Well, we gotta define cheating because, like, you know,
Well, we
one
know
of the
that they
things.
cheated. We know that he cheated, and by extension, they cheated.
So it wasn't, but we know that also it was a rule. It wasn't really a a rule that was put in place for what he was using it for. It was because
True.
other schools couldn't have that sort of advantage. It wasn't to tilt the scales for it. Like it wasn't put in place because it was known that that type of scouting would give you a competitive advantage.
Yes,
Although
absolutely.
it was just so that's
Yeah,
where I'm like, okay, y'all mixing it. Y'all making it seem like it's a correlation to the advantage that you would get if you were the only team allowed to do this, and this was a rule that was put in place because it was a clear advantage that if you scouted this way, that you would have a clear advantage. Like that wasn't the rule, but that's how everybody is kind of connecting it. It's like,
yes.
oh, well,
If this
that's
exact
what the
situation would have happened 30 years ago, it would have been fine. But sometime in the early 1990s, somebody determined, well, not every program has the capabilities, the resources, the finances to go out and advance scout. Therefore, we're going to make it even for everyone, and you can no longer advance scout in this way with the technology and so forth.
yes.
So yes.
So when they
So
go to the extreme case of cheating, like, oh, they needed that for the like, that's not even what the rule. Like that's the
yeah,
extreme.
obviously the advanced scouting was not deemed against the rules because it was deemed, well, this is not good for the game. This is not good, but this is a way to gain an unfair advantage that's not fair and not good and not clean sportsmanship. That's not why that rule was put in
But
place.
that's how most people
Place.
are perceiving it. Like
Yeah,
that's
it was
that's
put in place
if
for
you look at
practical
probably the
reasons.
people that's gonna call in next, that's the notion that they're gonna go on. Like
Sure.
that's
But
the
it was
advantage that they were getting.
yeah, it was put in place so MAC schools and Sunbelt schools could compete in a more fair way because they didn't have the resources to do that. Let me give you 2 examples of completely ridiculous violations and situations that I can draw some conclusions to, and this is what I'm talking about. Like when Tom Brady put too much air in the footballs that he was throwing in the AFC Championship game in what was that, like 2012, 2013?
Mhm.
do I think because Tom Brady has thrown more passes in NFL history than anybody that gave him an unfair advantage or that caused him to throw the football well? No, we've seen him throw the football as well as anybody that's ever played. So I think it's ridiculous to think that caused New England to win an AFC championship game by 38 points. No, but he did it. That's the problem. He did it. He did cheat just because he thought it was a slick night and cold and whatever. And so he did. So where do you draw that conclusion? Some people would just flat out say, you cheated, you cheat, and you compromise the game, therefore you should forfeit the game. Other people would say on the opposite end of the spectrum, well, the cheating, we know that Tom Brady can throw a football. He didn't need to do that, so it doesn't matter. You get me there?
Yeah, I get you.
Just like when Ohio State players sold their championship trophies and the gold pants and everything else for tattoos, my thought is that's a stupid thing to then parlay into, especially when it happened after the fact. They committed the violation after they won all that stuff. So why are you taking away things that they already won? Penalize them going forward. So I thought that was completely insane and still do to this day, but they broke the rules. So
I agree.
Even though I thought the rules were stupid, I'm not going to get into that.
That's agreed. That was. But, I mean, for me though, is again when those same fans come out and say the things that should be taken away. Because I always bring up Maurice Clarett, and that's because he came out and publicly said he got paid more at Ohio State than he did at UCF. He came out and said that. So with him coming out and saying that publicly, he played in a national championship game. If you received payment during the time that you was at the school, shouldn't he be an ineligible player? Should he have been allowed to play? Should we go back and strip the title because he played in it? And he made plays in the game that caused them to win. Based on the morale that's out there. Not because I think it's fair, but just putting it under the same lens as what's fair, and if you were caught cheating, what should be the consequences of that? Based on that lens alone. Not my lens, but I'm going off of the fans, the rival fans, who's saying if they got caught cheating, these wins should be vacated, that championship should be stripped. So based on what we know, based on what he did, should it not be a consequence for that?
Well, there should be a consequence for everybody who cheats, period.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. My comment was simply there should be a consequence for anyone who cheats.
Yeah, and again, I'm not because that's past. So, but I'm like, since we're here now, we're bringing this back up as far as morale go. Then let's talk about it now. Then, because this conversation never came up before, but now that it's come up, let's have a conversation about what cheating really looks like. What a competitive advantage look like. Is it more of a competitive advantage to pay your players to come to your school to play, or is it to steal shines? Like, which one is, if I'm paying top 5 or 5-star athletes to come to my program, is that more of a competitive advantage than someone who's stealing signs, or less?
You know what? To me, it doesn't matter as much as it does that both schools cheated, so penalized.
No, again, I'm just going off of the lens that's being put out there. I'm just trying to, I am a Michigan fan, so I am going to be on the side and look from that lens back at Ohio State, or back at any school who looks at Michigan in a that's an asterisk sort of way. Like, okay, well, let's go through what cheating really looks like in college football, and let's make sure that everybody was getting over the same hurdles as anybody who was playing fair.
But you do understand, and this isn't fair. What I'm about to say is not fair, but it's just like when you go 85 and a 65 and you get pulled over and there were 4 other dudes going 85 and a 65, not everyone's going to get caught.
Right. I agree. But that doesn't mean that that don't mean that you wasn't going 80. So like don't then if I get the ticket, be like, all right, throw him in jail. And don't and throw away the key and give him a sentence long like and you was doing 85 too.
Here's the deal, sir, and I didn't catch your name.
Hello?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Damone.
Yeah, Damone. So I appreciate your call, but this is the crux of the matter for me as well. It's that we know that Connor Stalions cheated. Okay. We know that he advanced scout in a way that was against the rules. Okay. We know that. What we don't know, but seems very logical for me to deduct, is that he brought information back for the Michigan defensive staff to use. Now, if he was ineffective in what he was doing, they would have stopped him from doing it anymore. Like he wouldn't have been doing it for 2.5 seasons if it was ineffective.
Well, his job was to decipher the signal. So if they think you're good at it, no one's going to say, "Hey, stop that." Without asking you, unless they're asking you how you're doing it,
Exactly.
and in which case he can say he don't have to go to the extent. He could just give them a general answer, and that'll be good enough for anybody if that's your job to do. Like I don't know too many people who see somebody doing a good job and then go into grave details about really how you're doing it. In no case. So to think that in this case that because he was good at his job and they might have asked him like how, him being good at it, not even asking him like, oh, well, how you're doing this? Like,
Sure.
I mean, you're really good at it.
I understand your defense there. Now, the next step is there a paper trail? And I am not, my memory doesn't serve me well enough in this case. It should, because of how much I've talked about it and read about it for the last 1.5 years, to determine how much of a paper trail is there from Connor Stalions to the Michigan staff and to Jim Harbaugh.
And what we know is that information, as much as they have looked for it, they have in their possession. And that's what I'm saying. If it was given to the Big Ten commissioner and he's seen all the evidence and he made a ruling either whether it be before or after, and now he's coming out and saying based on the findings, like that should be it. Like as far as the penalties going moving forward, like that should be it.
Yeah,
that's a big statement because people's talking about bowl bans and strip this and like for him to just give those games last year and say that's it, like he's not even looking for games this year. Based on what he's saying, based on what everything's settled in front of him, based on the settlings in front of him, he's saying last year was enough. So now, how bad was it?
Well, and we are talking about the commissioner of the Big Ten, so we can sit here and conjecture about how much he would be sticking up for the other teams versus how much he would be protecting the interests of the Big Ten, which is to have Michigan on the field playing eligible football.
But everybody wanted Michigan here. No school was back in Michigan. No school, I don't think, would feel sorry if the commissioner came out and suspended him for more games. As far as that's concerned, like he has more of the other schools wanting it because it'll kind of validate their coaches as to why they lost if they lost to Michigan. That's one more thing that they can sit down and say, well, we didn't lose fairly. So that loss right there shouldn't count against me on my resume. Like that's for anybody that Michigan played. I haven't seen one school come out in support of him and saying, hey, we've kind of done the same thing, or hey, I don't really think nobody's in the Big Ten has come out on Michigan behalf, which is fine. I mean, we understand that, but I'm saying it doesn't give the commissioner any reason to do that. To me.
Yeah. So here we are at the start, which is basically we're waiting for the NCAA to give
which we should have been doing that from the beginning, which I feel we But you know,
Yeah, but we found out information, and so there's nothing wrong with taking that information and trying to understand it. And
postseason ban someone,
no,
strip titles and games.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every few months we've been given more and more information to where we can draw more and more conclusions. So you can't expect, we're living in a society of free speech. We're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss. Even people that don't have a stake one way or the other are still going to discuss, okay, what did that mean? We just found this out, or we just found out these text messages were unveiled. So people are going to draw more and more conclusions because we've got more and more information.
And all that information, we're back to square one. Like with all of that new information, new findings, the suspension from the beginning is that's the only one that he sees fit. And we don't even know if that was even based on what we still don't know what the evidence is. We don't know if he still jumped the gun. We still don't even know if he jumped the gun on the suspensions and how many games based on the evidence. Once we know what the evidence is, really,
Well, at some point it becomes this is not all objective. The information is hopefully objective, but somebody's decision on how severe these infractions are, that's up to the person that's ruling. So when you say that have they gone far enough with their penalties, and you believe that they have, well, that depends on your judgment of how bad the cheating is.
Well, that's not me. That's the commissioner. He believes. I didn't feel as strongly as most people about the science done things. Play in the game. It was kind of ridiculous to think that was illegal because I played up to a little bit of college, but that was what I've known to do every football season. Go to the other opponents' games and scout them and record them, and like that's been going on as long as I've known football. So to come up and say like that's against the rules, I'm just not so caught up in that to where it's like that. I know that determined the outcome of games because everybody got somebody scouting, discerning, deciphering signals. Like everybody got somebody doing that.
Well, from the time that this broke on social media, I saw the football community, and I'm talking about coaches and players, the people that really know how much this would affect a game. I saw them pretty split. You would think that it would be all in one direction, like, no, this didn't help it at all, or this was huge, one or the other, but that wasn't the case. I saw everything across the spectrum.
Yeah, and again, that's why I say, I've been following a little on certain, things that you mentioned on it, and it has been more reporting than opinion, and I can appreciate that. At least, so I know like what is being updated versus what is somebody's opinion about what's being updated. Because you get a lot of opinions, and it'd be like, well, I didn't hear anything about this.
Sure.
What I'm hearing is brand new. And then I go and look at it, and nobody really said anything, and nothing really came out. And I'm like, well, there's people reporting that things came out, but I don't hear any official word.
Yeah.
So they said we have till August until the official word come out. Then,
yes,
I want to hear everybody's opinion.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you calling, man.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.